Welcome everyone to the Indian Express newspaper of October 9th, 2022. I will explain this newspaper in three steps. First is why is the news, second is what is the news, and third is what can we expect in the future about the topic that is given in the news. So let's get started with the first news, which is to set uniform safety standards, testing of electric vehicles to begin from April 1. So why is this news? Because you may have seen a lot of incidents of firing of these electric vehicles. A lot of vehicles catch fire. So that is why now government is setting up a testing facility for these electric vehicles in order to ensure the safety. So for the first time, India is set to begin testing of electric vehicles from April 1st next year, which means 2023. And government has mandated an association. What is this association? Government has mandated ARAI, which is Automotive Research Association of India, to procure the infrastructure needed to test battery powered vehicles. So this association will test the vehicles. Now this ARAI has set up in fact the requisite infrastructure for testing, certification, development of electric and hybrid vehicles, which means this will do three things. First, it will test the vehicle. If the vehicles pass, then it will give certificate to them. Also, it will create more electric vehicles plus hybrid vehicles. So what are hybrid vehicles? Hybrid vehicles are those vehicles that includes technology of both electric and fossil fuel based technology, which means combustion engine. Both technologies are there. Either you can use electric sometime, and when you want to use combustion engine, then you can use combustion. This is called hybrid vehicles. So what can we expect in the future? More safety and security of these electric vehicles. Now coming to next news. This is for the first time since independence that a new operational branch is created in the Indian Air Force. So all IAF system under one roof. Government clears dedicated branch, which means there will be one dedicated branch. For what? For weapon system. So moving to synergize operational requirement of the Indian Air Force, government has approved the creation of new weapon system branch, and this weapon system branch will be responsible for all Indian Air Force weapon system operators. So this means there will be one branch that will operate all essential weapons. So this is the first time since independence that a new operational branch is being created. And what will be the operation? What will be the main function of this branch? So there are especially four specialized streams. First is surface to surface missile, then surface to air missile, remotely piloted aircraft, and weapon system aircraft. So you know surface to surface missiles that are fired from land, and their end, or you can call the aim, is to destroy something in land. So land to land, you can call surface to surface missile. Then there is surface to air missile. So whenever there is a missile that is fired from land but it strikes in air, for example to destroy some foreign aircrafts, so this is surface to air missile. Then remotely piloted aircraft, those aircrafts which have their pilots in remote position. Remote means far distant position, which means these aircraft are run not by man, these are unmanned, and they are run from far a distance using some other technologies, not by the pilot. So these are remotely piloted aircraft and weapon system operators. So four things will be essentially be there. Now moving to next page, you see this establishment of a separate branch for missile system operators, unmanned aerial vehicles, and weapon system officers of two-seater aircraft is an effort to synergize operational requirements which differ from active flying. So in most of the air jet planes, they have two seats. So one seat is for the pilot and second seat is for the person who controls the weapon system. So what will happen is that separate branch is being established for maintenance of unmanned vehicles plus weapon system officers of two-seater aircraft. So unmanned air vehicles are those vehicles which do not have any pilot in there. Also there is a missile system in the unmanned air vehicles. It can launch, strike the missiles. And second is weapon system officers. So there are two-seater aircraft. So one person will do the flying and other person will be actively involved in just firing missiles. So this can create more particular skills in the weapon system officer. So separate branch is being made, and what can we expect in the future? More synergy, more integrated air defense assets, and more procurement and induction of missile systems. So accuracy will be more now because a separate branch is made. Now coming to our next page. Here most of the news are political. This is again the Sunday story page. Coming to economy page, rising inflation and strong dollar USD. Forex reserve plummet $110 billion in 13 months. So there are various reasons. First is inflation, rising inflation. Second is dollar has strengthened against the rupee. So that is why these reserves have come down. So Indian foreign reserves have fallen by 110 billion in the last 13 months. And why exactly? Because inflation has been rising. So why does this forex reserve come down? Because whenever government need money, it has a store of reserve which is called forex reserve. Whenever there is more inflation, whenever rupee is depreciating, the government use these reserves in order to mitigate the effects of rising inflation, also strengthening dollar. So that is why, because of these rising inflation, capital outflows and appreciating dollar created a turmoil in the foreign exchange market. So what are the factors? First is strong dollar. You know, $1 is now 81 point some rupee. So rupee has depreciated a lot. So that is why it has an adverse effect on India's forex reserve. Also some external factors are there. For example, capital outflows by the FPIs. So you can say that investors are reclaiming their money back from the Indian market. So whatever they have invested, they are now not any more interested in investing. So that is why there is capital outflow, which means, you know, capital is the money that is spent on infrastructure and other investment you can call, and there is a outflow of this investment, which means money is going out of the Indian market. So that is why there is a decline in forex reserve. Also, US Federal Reserve started monetary policy tightening and interest rate hike. So Federal Reserve have in fact tightened the monetary policy. It has risen its interest rate. We have seen this in news. and this has caused the depreciation of rupee, and that is why Indian government have to use these forex reserve. Also there is, so that is why these forex reserve have declined, because they are used a lot. Also decline in gold prices also played a part in decline in foreign exchange reserve. So this is uh, what has in the news. Now why this rupee is in this condition? Because rupee is a freely floating currency, and the exchange rate, which means how much is $1 in the rupee, so this is not fixed. This is not fixed by government. Some currencies are fixed, but this rupee depends on market. How much is the market going on? What is the market determination? It is determined by market. This is not a fixed exchange rate. So that is why any external factor have an adverse effect on the forex reserve and also on the rupee. Coming to next news is talking about rupee. India is in fact going to launch e-rupee very soon. So this is about specificity of rupee. So what is the RBI's plan? So central bank said that development of central bank digital currency could provide the public a risk-free virtual currency. You know, virtual currency, which is, it is talking about what are the risk-based virtual currency. Risk-based virtual currency are cryptocurrency. These are private currency. They do not have accountability if your money is spent on it, which means if you get on loss there, they are not accountable. So central bank wants a risk-free virtual currency that will give them legitimate benefits. So users of this currency, which means Indian citizens, will get legitimate benefits without the risk of dealing in private virtual currencies. So they do not have to do transactions in these cryptocurrencies. So it is a replacement. It is a government replacement of cryptocurrency. E-rupee is same as the fiat currency. It is same like your note, but just a difference is that it is in the virtual form. So there are two forms. For example, you can see it if you have a PDF, or in fact think of a newspaper. If your newspaper you have in hand, or in fact in your device, it is just the same. It is just a virtual form of the newspaper. Same way, you have cash in hand and you have cash in your in the form of e-rupee. It is just in a virtual form. Only its form is different. It can be accepted as a medium of payment, legal tender, and safe store of value. So all of this can be used. What are the types of e-rupee? There are two types. First is retail based and second is wholesale based. So central bank digital currency are, which means central bank digital currency retail and central bank digital currency wholesale. What about retail CBDC? So retail CBDC is an electronic version of cash, and from the name it is clear that this is for the retail transaction. So it can be used by private sector, non-financial consumers, business, and this retail currency will provide access to safe money for payment. What about wholesale CBDC? So wholesale CBDC is designed for restricted access, which means it will not be used by just consumers. It will be restricted for financial institution. So for transactions such as government securities, interbank market, capital market, which means, you know, banks also have their own transaction. For example, SBI transactions to the RBI, RBI transactions to the SBI. This will be done through wholesale CBDC. Also government securities will be done by this wholesale CBDC. It will not be for common people to use. What are the forms of CBDC? There are two forms of CBDC. First is token based, second is account based. So token based, here in token based, ownership, for example, if you use a cash, the person who has a cash has the ownership of that money till he has the cash in hand. Same way, in the token based CBDC, the person receiving a token will verify that his ownership of the token is genuine, which means the person who has token in hand will be the owner of that token. What about account based? So account based CBDC, here one intermediary will be present. So first of all, let's understand the token based. Token based person, the person who has the token in hand, have to explain, have to verify that this ownership of token is genuine. What about account based? In account based, not the person or the account holder have to verify, but intermediary will verify the identity of account holder. Now, what is the model? There are two models. First is direct, second is indirect. So direct model, in the direct model, central bank, which means RBI, will be responsible for managing everything of this digital rupee system. For example, issuance, that is issuing these rupee, then account keeping and transaction verification. So how much money is there in the people's account, then liquidity, transaction verification, whether this transaction is fraud or legal, whether it is not a digital fraud, it will be done by central bank, which means RBI. In indirect model, here two will be present. First is central bank and second is one intermediary. What does this intermediary? Intermediary can be any bank or any other service provider. What will occur? Central bank will issue this central bank digital currency to consumer indirectly through intermediaries. And if there is some complaints or any claim by the consumer, this will not be managed by the RBI. This will be managed by intermediary. So this is very clear. Indirect model, two people are present, RBI, intermediary. Central bank will issue the e-rupee indirectly through intermediary, and if any person consumer has any claim, then this will be managed by intermediary. What are the advantages of e-rupee? First is the printing cost of the physical cash, which means the money. This will be reduced. So reduction is operational cost involved in physical cash management. Also there will be financial inclusion, which means more and more people will join it, bringing resilience, which means you can be dependent on this e-rupee. This is a legal tender and it will also show efficiency and innovation in the payment system. So new forms of innovation will be developed. Also this is an efficient system. So it is same like Google Pay and other Paytm. You have to just transfer money through that. No problems of exchange rupees and all that. So this is very efficient and innovative. Also to boost innovation in cross border payment space. So you see, this black marketing, black money and all this money will obviously get verified and they will be more identifiable. Navigation will be easy of the transaction of these black money. So boost innovation in cross border payment system and provide the public with uses that any private virtual currency can provide without the associated risk. So some people use cryptocurrency, but this central bank digital currency will give them all facilities of these virtual currency with no risk. So cryptocurrencies have risk. These will give the essence of virtual currency with no risk. So can e-rupee be transacted in offline mode? So simple answer is yes. Offline functionality will be there and the transaction can be done without internet. So this can be very helpful for regions that have poor or no internet connectivity. Also, people that do not have bank account can also be included in this financial system, and that can give easy credit to them, which means loan will be easily available to these people who have poor or less or no internet connectivity. So this is about central bank digital currency. It will be launched soon and we hope the commitments that it has done are fulfilled. Next come the news of world. Here one news is only important, which is about OPEC plus oil cut shows growing rift between US and Saudi royals. So why is this news? Because OPEC plus. So OPEC is a group of Gulf countries that are particularly exporting petroleum, and plus means its allies. So its allies are majorly Russia. So OPEC plus means Gulf countries plus Russia. So they have now decided to cut oil production by 2 million barrel. So prices of oil are and petroleum are very high, and this production cut will make the inflation more. So why there is a problem in the US? Because the US president wants to keep the US gasoline prices from spiking again ahead of midterm elections. So elections are coming in the US. So as every leader wants inflation to be low before election, so US president also wants gasoline prices to be low, because people are already suffering and people blame government for its non-management of inflation. So that is why, in order to play safe in the election, in order to win the election, get support from the people, it wants to keep the prices low. So that is why this rift is between Saudi Arabia and US, because it did not want it, the Saudi Arabia, to keep production low. Now coming to next page, you see this newspaper has ended.